Okay, we're back. I really kind of set a challenge for myself this morning to keep up my energy level throughout the whole broadcast. That last match, I apologize to some of you viewers as things were kind of dying out between Mike and I because really, I mean, well, you were watching, you saw what happened. There was not the most exciting play that we've seen. However, I thought we had a lot of really good other rounds today. In fact, I think it's been above average taken as a whole. And we have the finals coming up for you next, Rug Delver versus Lands that we just saw. So here is the bracket that we're pulling from. Maxx Kominowski versus Timothy Schulz. Mike, Rug Delver versus Lands. This is kind of a matchup where Lands feels like it would be ahead, except for the fact of Wasteland plays a big role. And so maybe it plays even. Maybe Rug Delver's a little bit ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, so on paper, it does look like this is Lands should favorably win this game, this matchup, right? Because we just watched what happened with Goblins. Goblins plays way more threats, can go a lot wider, so you think it'd give Lands a bit more trouble. Where Delver has some cards that probably just like Daze is probably not ever that useful. But for some strange reason, I think it's the matter of being able to protect a Delver, getting the Hooting Mandrills down, and those bolts. Incremental advantage helps out. So that this will be an interesting one, and I think the play draw is going to play a big role here too.
Right. Yeah. So we'll find out which player is the higher seed as we go through the deck lists here. You're familiar with them if you've been with us all day, but I realize that's not the way that coverage events works. People are moving in and out. So if you're just showing up, here are the deck lists and Lands. Timothy Schulz is on the play, and we see kind of more or less basic Lands decks with the Klothys main deck, which stands out to me as having been away from Legacy for a few months. Klothys is a card that's I'm familiar with from limited and standard a little bit, but not even much there, and yet here we have it in a Lands deck. Other than that, we have standard land fetching stuff. We have Exploration to allow extra drops. We have the Merit Lage combo. We have Punishing Fires for defense, as well as crop rotation for, in this matchup, most likely our choice of Glacial Chasm or Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale. There's also a Field of the Dead, which might play a role, but in this matchup, I think it's not entirely likely that we'll get that far. Yeah, we also have a Blast Zone and Burying Ring, which could come up, but I'm not really expecting those to be so significant. And then for the Delver side, we have another Klothys. So we have Klothys on both sides. We do have Okos over here, and Dreader Arcanist, Delver, Tarmogoyf, and Hooting Mandrills, and a single Hooting Mandrills constitutes our offense. And then we have Bolts and Counter Magic, Cantrips, Wastelands, which everyone realizes Wastelands is going to be super important on both sides probably, as there's no basic lands in a standard Delver deck.
Yeah. I think that the Klothys is going to be huge for Temur Delver. Being able to just chip stuff out of the graveyard is going to be really good. I think the getting, even if you can get a Dreadhorde Arcanist down, right, because that helps. Let's say you do land a Tabernacle, it's okay because Arcanist is kind of a net gain. I'm paying 1 to keep Arcanist around, but I'm paying 0 to flash back.
Right.
Ponder, Lightning Bolt, so that seems like it's okay. So yeah, I think much like a Delver strategy tries to get a threat, stick a threat, and protect the threat. I also think here Oko is going to play a big role in this game as well, to be able to either make 3/3s or just continue to gain life. That too is going to play a huge factor here.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's true, because if we can gain 3 life, then we can survive 1 hit from Merit Lage, and that could make a big difference. Yeah. Closest with the same actual function, as well as just being able to pick off random stuff out of the graveyard. Maybe we can catch an important card. I mean, if the Lands player's careful, if the cards line up right, maybe not, but you never know. I do think the Klothys in the Rug Delver side is probably more important than the Klothys in the land side.
Yeah, I agree. Just simply because the utility out of the graveyard for lands is much more important. On top of that, if you look at it from the Delver side, they're going to get down an early Delver, maybe chip in 1 or 2 shots, get the lands player down to 10 or 11. and then the Clythos can just continue to chip away.
Right.
And with a bolt or two on top of that, you literally can just close the game out of nowhere.
Yeah, definitely. So, their lands player seems to have things a little bit in their favor, but Delver definitely has a chance, and there's definitely some key cards that can help. So as soon as the players are ready, we'll get things rolling. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching and being with us today. We're here. This is nerdragegaming.com sponsoring. We're hosting this event. This is our first live covered online event. We've had a few that were. Well, this is our first event with live coverage of a live event. We've had coverage of recorded events. This time we're stepping it up to having it fully live. And want to acknowledge Tanny Grace, Anurag Das, and Mike Hadley, who took turns joining me here for today. They did a great job, all three of you guys. It's been awesome. Especially the fact that you got to be here to cover goblins was just really, really sweet.
That was a treat.
Yeah.
Now we get to see the deck that beat up on goblins, lands, versus a deck that just always beats up on everything, Delver.
Yeah, it really does. And Delver, I think, still kind of acknowledged to be probably the top deck in the Legacy format. So we see here, we are on the lands perspective. We see a hand with no removal, but we have a lot of land disruption. We have Exploration Loam, though. Is that enough by itself?
So against the Delver strategy, playing no basics, and just probably camping out at 2 lands and being able to operate there. I like the idea of being able to go Exploration and then jam a Ghost Corner or even a Caracas, right, and just hide the. Now this all blows up if there's a Force Negation or a Force of Will, but and there it is. There's the Force of Will. But I still think we're okay if I'm the lands player, because I got Waste, Ghost Quarter.
Yeah.
This might be one of the last threats or last things that a Delver player does.
Yeah, it's so tough. And then with it being a Ponder, not a Delver, this is going to be. And there's not going to be 2 mana during the same turn for Delver for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's tough to get through. Like, no Tarmogoyf and no Harkness is hitting the board anytime soon.
In fact, if you look at it, so we go. If I'm the lands player, Wasteland, then Ghost Quarter, then after I keep, assuming you draw 3 lands in a row, after I've done all that, I play Caracas.
Yeah.
And then I play Life of the Loam.
Yeah.
And I do it all over again.
Now, what would be interesting here is if we see a Wasteland from the Delver side and pick off the Taiga.
Yeah. So I liked what just happened here. It was something small but made a big difference. Wasteland was played first.
Right.
And that was probably to make sure you don't run into days. Then the Exploration.
Oh, there it is, the Wasteland back. But so there's another Exploration. Okay, and we're able to go in response. And we are playing. We do have our Forest. So we preserve our ability to actually cast spells for the moment. We weren't in real danger of getting locked out or anything. Just taking a little bit longer to develop, but we save ourselves a land drop there. Loam back to 3 lands, and this is already close to being over with.
Yeah, and it's tough. If you're the Delver player, you just had to force pitch a blue card to stop somebody from getting a card back that they're going to get back next turn, and you've lost 2 lands. I mean, this game, you had to force 2 cards that did nothing, so you got rid of 4 cards and 2 lands, and you've got no board presence, no hand, and there was nothing productive from that. That was tough.
That was just a complete blowout, and then also forcing an Exploration, and then 2 more immediately show up. Yeah, that's rough.
That hurts.
So
what do you like? Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What'd you say? No, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I mean, it's just the Lance player had. I mean, they won that game against an aggro Delver deck. They didn't even have a removal spell drawn the entire time. It didn't matter. Yeah. The land pressure was just too much to overcome, given the start the Delver player had. Hopefully, we can get a more competitive game 2. And we always like to see things draw out. So if the Delver player can take down game 2 and push it to game 3, I would appreciate it. But based on how that game 1 played out, it's looking a little rough.
Yeah, that was tough, and that was about as good as it gets. When we first looked at the Lance player's hand, it was like there's no removal. But I won't say more important, but what it did have is a way to exploit sometimes the House of Cards approach that Delver has with the mana base. Wasteland plus double Ghost Quarter is just hard, plus a low. It's hard to say no to. You're rare, if ever, you're going to see a Delver player with 3 or 4 lands out.
All right, so let's go ahead and look again at the other sideboard. So what are we gaining here? So we got stomped. There's no other way around that in game 1. What do we have to help us? We felt like Colossus might be relevant. We have another one. We have one graveyard hate card.
Yeah, so I think you've got the Surgical here, which seems like it can help out in this matchup. So I think that you want to bring in. I question. I don't know if Sylvan Library is good enough or not. What do you think about Winter Orb? Is that good enough, or is this deck not playing enough lands and tapping out enough that is that even relevant here?
I think Sylvan Library and Winter Orb are both fine, and if there's cards in the deck that the Delver player feels like they don't want, then those will be the ones that go in. Winter Orb may not seem like it does a ton, but one thing it will do is stop repeated Punishing Fire, because that does actually cost a lot of mana. I guess it also slows down Maze of Ith quite a bit, if you're using it every turn, then that's your untap and you can't use your other land.
Yeah, so perhaps there's some merit to bringing in the Winter Orb. So we'll see now that we're back for game 2. And for the lands player, I'm sure we've all sat on this side of the table when you see when they play a Mox and you're like, gosh, they're about to start getting a land advantage already. That hurts. Yeah. And you let that resolve. And then inevitably they go land, exploration, land, and you just like it just spirals quickly, which just looks like may happen here.
This hand is tremendous.
Yeah.
From the land side of things, this is such a good hand. We have we're just going to Ghost Quarter right away the Volcanic Island, and again in this matchup, this is a wasteland effectively because there are no basics to fetch out, which is one of the drawbacks of playing Rogue Delver. There aren't too many drawbacks of playing this deck. It is probably the top deck in the format, but this is one issue. And so this Volcanic is picked off. Okay, Brainstorm gets cast in response. It's interesting that this Brainstorm, it was cast on upkeep in response to the Wasteland, or the Ghost Quarter. So the Rogue Delver was not planning on playing that Brainstorm otherwise.
Mm-mm. And what that might tell me, and you see a Ponder here, perhaps they wanted to go look for a threat, but now they've got to go find more lands.
Right.
And just so the Delver player, like Delver tries to do, was maybe hoping they had a little more time to set up shop. Mm-hmm. But that is just not the case. And so here we'll see lands that if you don't got an answer for this exploration, this is not good. I almost liked even playing a land here to get around days.
Right. So, yeah, go ahead. So this exploration was kind of offered up as if you want to daze this, go ahead. Since that didn't happen, I kind of feel like we could have fired up the Loam also because there didn't appear to be a daze. But, maybe not. Maybe both players are playing around each other. Maybe the daze is being held. But I feel like it's more likely there isn't one. And we see Arcanist again. Also, there could be a daze, but just Arcanist was valued highly, and Rogue Delver wanted to get down. Maxx Kominowski wanted to get down his Arcanist.
Yeah, the Arcanist here is really good because it gets away from Punishing Fire, right?
Right.
So which is important, and it allows you, knowing this deck is going to restrict you on mana with Tabernacle and Waste and Ghost Quarters, to still be able to cast the things you need to be able to do. And that's what Delver's trying to do, is get a clock and get incremental advantage through Ponders and Brainstorms. So I feel like Arcanist was about as good as it's going to get on turn 2 for Delver.
Yeah, Arcanist looks solid. Life of Loam gets hit from Force of Negation, which does exile the Loam, so that's pretty relevant.
Oh, that is very relevant.
And then, so we're left here now, all of a sudden, we have Punishing Fire and Force of Vigor, which Force of Vigor targets those sideboard cards that we felt like might come in, but this is yeah. This went from, okay, I kind of feel like Rogue Delver's ready to pack it in already, to lands now feel significantly in trouble.
Yeah, that force of negation was huge, and to the call out there, the exile played a huge role.
Right.
And so yeah, so now let's see if the Delver player can take advantage of that huge tempo swing. Something like a Hooting Mandrills here would be great, or even better, Oko.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, if that had been a force of will on the Light from the Loam, it would have been virtually meaningless. But a force of negation, exile, and stuck, and just what? Wow, the Lance player just has nothing. It's over.
Yeah.
No, it's not over.
Oh no! Okay.
That was a pump fake on the concession there.
Let's keep going.
That definitely caught me. That was they definitely drew the foul on me on that one.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if for those watching, you may have remembered, gosh, I forget which tournament it was, when we started to learn about the layering interactions with Oko and Tabernacle, and you make 3/3s. So we'll see if that. Oh no, we'll see if that comes up here or not as we start to make 3/3s, and if there's a Tabernacle that comes out or not. But in the meantime, this Arcanist is continuing to get incremental advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're getting a free ponder here after one of the most lackluster Force of Vigors of all time takes out food. But yeah, so boy, we see so Force of Vigor, not so much Force of Negation, tremendous relevance. Arcanist gets in for another one, and with a Wasteland, okay, sure. I don't know if we're holding that or picking off the Grove. I think either one is defendable.
Yeah. So if you're on the other side of the table, when your opponent Force of Vigor's a token, or just your ability to gain 3 life, that should tell you something about the context of their hand.
Yeah.
And so then I think that even informs the decision you want to make with the Wasteland. Like, they got nothing else. Do I need to hurry up and fire this off, or can I afford to wait? And I don't know that answer, but I think just picking up the context clues of what happened the turn before might help you make the decision on how to sequence the next couple turns. Because I think Wasteland here is about as powerful as a card you can get against the Lance deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's some things that, like taking out the Grove, like sometimes, like if we had Tarmogoyf, for example, then maybe we want to hold on to it in case the Maze of Ith came down. But Maze of Ith versus Dreadhorde Arcanist really doesn't do very much. Mm-hmm. I mean, you save a life point, but they still get to cast a spell.
Yeah.
So,
and it helps that we know the game started with the Lance player actually pitching a Maze of Ith to get the Maxx into play.
Yeah.
So there's that information you now have to go, okay, it's not being loaned back. I don't have to worry about it there. So I can, to your point, maybe it is, I can hold up this Wasteland for this situation.
Okay, so now we see a whole pile of threats here, and Choke is the draw.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Choke is a good one.
I wasn't personally aware that card came in against Delver, but okay, maybe that's the norm. I don't know. But it's definitely going to do some work here, as 3 lands are permanently locked down. Choke is even worse than Winter Orb, which feels rough, but this is just, those lands are permanently gone. And I imagine that that Choke's just not going to be answered. Now, does it need to be answered? I'm not sure that it does.
Well, I think here now you want even Tabernacle isn't the best because of Wasteland.
Yeah.
Because the Delver player here, just with what's out, they make a token with Oko, and next turn turn it into a 3/3, and they just get it in 2 turns here, right?
Yeah. This is going to be real quick. I almost wonder, like you're saying, I'm not sure I would have thought of this if you hadn't said that, but I wonder if, because Tabernacle and Choke together is so strong, I wonder if it might be reasonable to hold on to the Choke until gaining access to Tabernacle, hoping the Wasteland gets used on something else.
That's a good point.
But the way we see here, Tarmogoyf flipped Delver and Dreadhorde Arcanist, even with nothing to flash back, plus the Oko food elk. We have a whole pile of damage here. Let's see, 4, 5, 6. That was 11 exactly, I think.
Is that it?
But we can
Punishing Fire.
Right.
To try to get rid of the Delver here, and we can buy it back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
right. I wonder. We also had the option there. I guess we could have shot down the food or the Arcanist instead, but shooting the Delver is fine. Crucible can pull up a Maze of Ith, I believe.
Okay. There's still some game left.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Very little bit.
Because we waste you wasteland the Maze of Ith. You can kill. You can't kill Tarmogoyf. I don't know if that's enough though, because you still take 4 on the way back.
It's done. Okay, so that game was determined. That Force of Negation just was the game. Without that, it's just over. So that was really cool. That game looked like a blowout, and then it was actually a blowout the other direction.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before the match. To say on paper, it just looks like what was happening is what would happen. Lands just taking over, but somehow Delver does what it does with its resilience. And who would have thought just that nuanced text on Force Negation about exile literally, I think, was the difference between losing and winning that game.
Yeah, absolutely it was. And it resulted in, I got what I wanted. I got a game 3. So Lance will get to go first. And Lance has had game 2, opening hand was great.
Yeah.
Both
really. Yeah, the first game was not a game at all.
Right.
And the second game looked like it wasn't going to be, but that was really good. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, the game 3 shapes up to be something. And even as you were talking, there were some sub games like, hey, maybe if they could play a Tabernacle before the choke. So I wonder how much of that thinking will go into the decision making in game 3.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe somebody in chat that's a big Legacy fan knows the answer to this can tell me whether lands would traditionally bring in choke against Rogue Delver. I could see, once you pointed out, it makes sense with Tabernacle, but I don't know. That there's a lot going on in the matchup, and there's other cards that are good, but maybe we can bring the land sideboard back up again, and we'll take a look and see what those chokes might have been doing. So we probably aren't bringing much else. We saw Force of Vigor come in also, which surprised me a little bit.
That did surprise me. I wonder if those leave, but we keep the chokes in.
Yeah, that's possible. Okay, so for the chat says it's free stock to bring it in versus Delver. So okay, thank you for that. I wasn't aware of that. So here we go. Game 3, last game of the day. We're in the finals, game 3 of our Nerd Rage Online Legacy Open event, and we have red-green lands on to play this game, looking at a pretty reasonable hand, I would say.
Yeah, and you know what? Like every game we've seen with lands, it starts with an interesting decision tree. And that decision tree here is, do I lead with the Mox Diamond and pitch a land? Do I lead with exploration? And so there's just this lot of sequencing, and they led with the Mox Diamond here. Mm-hmm. And again, we'll see that going. I wonder too if we will see. Yeah, here's the exploration. Gosh, what's just an amazing start.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And then you cast the loam? No. Okay, we're gonna wait till we can get back more than one card. That's fine.
Oof. This is tragic because you get to wasteland and buy back your loams, and this is kind of like game 1, where the Delver player just won't play lands, or won't have lands to play the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. Now we do have, if we have Force of Negation here, we'll be in a similar situation to game 2, where after the loam gets exiled, the lands player is left with pretty much nothing.
For sake of wanting to see a good game, I'm hoping that we see the polluted Delta go fetch up a land, brainstorm, and then they peel the Force Negation as the third card to be able to force this to keep it going. If they don't, this game's over, likely.
That would be that almost, but like last game, I don't know if that results in a good game either way. Either player is getting blown to shreds in that. Okay, Spell Pierce. Okay, this is a way to keep the game going with nothing much happening.
Yeah.
Now a surgical here would be gigantic.
Yeah.
The Horizon Canopy can protect the life from the loam in the graveyard, but only if you have an extra mana available to activate it, and that is not currently something that we have.
And so I'm also surprised that the lands player didn't play the exploration. simply because there was, unless I'm missing something, there was no right. You can't use the canopy. There's no reason not to.
Right.
And if you're going to be loaming back stuff, you're effectively able to get back just recoup and play the lands that you like wastelanded or got back from the loan.
You're right. The cost is just one life, and that's really not, much in the course of things here. That would have been a reasonable thing to pay. Now, we get dazed. Whoa. Now, we have no pressure from the Delver player, but we have no green. Oh, my goodness. So, Dredge of Loam is shut. Whoa! I can't even keep up.
What?
So the dredging is shut off. We have neither player with a land in play.
What is happening?
Island. And
what is happening?
My goodness, we brought in our 6 drop.
How bad does the Delver player right now just want to Delver right now?
Yeah.
There we go.
That'll work.
That has to be that. I'm sure they are not upset about.
Oh my goodness! And there's wow.
Oh no.
We're rapidly approaching the end of the game. Lands does play a lot of its namesake card, lands, so it certainly is possible it could rip off a few lands in a row.
Wow, are you watching this? The Delver player is outlanding the lands player.
Well, oh no. So all 4 explorations, it's funny, 3 explorations in game 1 was more than was needed. 4 in game 3 with generating zip value. And this was, navigated, we had, Pierce on Loam, and then Daze on Loam, and then waste the canopy, and this might be all of it. But Jugabali is going to probably shrink the Charmer Wave a little bit, maybe, but there's a lot left in the lands graveyard too, so it's not going to be too much of a difference. 4 of a Kind is, in some card games, 4 of a Kind is really, really good. But
look at that, the Brainstorm.
Not in Magic, yeah. So Brainstorm, which will give Arcanist something to do this turn. This was, this game really accelerated towards its late game, didn't it? We just skipped the middle of the season and just right to the season finale. Yeah, it's basically what they're trying to do in basketball this year. So, and yeah, here we go. We're just loading up the board. And,
look at this! This is an all-star cat. This is Delver doing Delver.
It is. It really is. This is unrecoverable at this point. But we have the choke in hand. Choke plus Tabernacle would be nice, but we're just. That's a pipe dream at this point. It's not there. Yeah, this is all we have are a million explorations and uncastable everything.
And it's unfortunate. If I'm the lands player. I play way more lands than Delver, and this is just as they say. Is this the Moto bug? Is that what I've heard about?
Oh my!
I've never played Moto, but there you have it.
Okay, so
Delver Reigns Supreme. Yikes!
Yep, that's it. Rug Delver takes down our event. So congratulations. We'll bring up the bracket one last time, as we saw in the final. Timothy Schulz losing to Maxx Kominowski. So congratulations to Maxx. Who is the winner of our 1K Legacy Online Open event. Thank you for playing. Thanks to everybody for playing. And for viewers that are here, I hope you guys had a good time. Mike, anything you want to say about the event? Like your experience doing this, casting? What's on your mind?
Here's what I say. So I don't play online. If you notice, I don't even have a Twitter handle like everybody else.
Yeah.
Just because I'm just not that active on social media all the time. I'm more of a paper Legacy player. Paper Magic player, if you will, versus online. But being able to watch this, and I think online Magic has been around, and I think more prominent now than ever been. This was exciting to see. The top 8 was so much diversity, interesting. Personal favorite, seeing Goblins play and one of my friends play in the top 8 was really cool. And so for somebody like me who's been an avid paper player, watching and observing this has gotten me excited. Like, I think I need to go download Moto. Maybe not get a Twitter handle just yet, but at least get Moto.
You never know what happens. So for people that are watching that might be familiar with me over time, my Twitter little moniker thing is now actually run by Joe Lossett. And the reason it says that was because I didn't have a Twitter either. And then a number of years ago, a couple of people I know were like, Joe needs a Twitter. We'll just make one for him and start posting stuff. And they did that. And I was like, hold on. And they're like, okay, fine. You take it over, but at least you got to run. And I was like, okay. And that's where my Twitter account started from. So, yeah, I was like you. And then I just got railroaded into it. But
chat saying don't get Twitter. Chat, but I'll still think about that. But I do think I'm convinced that that I probably need to get Moto. And for anybody observing, NRG, this was a great tournament, supporting the Legacy community, getting myself and a few others to help commentate. Joe, phenomenal job today, and I have fun. I hope everybody who played have fun, and everybody who tuned in to watch some great games have fun as well. This was cool.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to have you here. And for you and for people watching that may be thinking, oh, Legacy, I'd be interested in getting you that, but it is, it's expensive. Everybody knows that. There are a couple different loan services now on Magic Online where you can basically rent collections on Magic Online to be able to play with. So that's something that if the financial cost is a barrier that you're is getting in your way, that's something you at least consider. Anyway, we're going to go through a little bit of promo stuff for the company here, starting with KMC, who is one of our supporters of the series for a long time now. Their sleeves are available all over the place, including at Nerd Rage. And if you're goldfishing your commander decks nonstop constantly during the pandemic and you're burning through sleeves and need replacements, they got you covered. NerdRageGaming.com, we're still running. If buying and selling collections, singles, still using the shipping code Stay Home for free shipping if you're interested in that. And also stay connected with us on social media. Maybe not in Hadley's case, but for the rest of you, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, we have all that covered, as well as NerdRageGaming.com for tournament announcements and what's going on in the future. Our next online event isn't currently scheduled, but once it is, you'll be able to find out about it on those social media sites as well as on the website. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I think hopefully you're happy with how things went. I think we are. We had a couple little hang-ups. Matches did complete the way we quite expected them to, or connections died. But if you are enjoying watching this, you can follow us here on Twitch. And if you're really having time, you want us to help support us, you can subscribe. But just being here, being involved in chat, just watching the event, that means a lot to us. So thanks to everyone for participating. My words start to lose themselves after the 8th or 9th hour. But this was a really good time. I enjoyed myself, and I think if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed the commentators, feel free to tell us in the chat. I think all three of them did a great job. We're happy to have them back. And on behalf of owner Norman Cohen, director and producer Maxx and myself, the lead commentator, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.